Hey guys, it's Alex Hempel from whitefleet.net, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the modern warship. Now, on the screen right now is a battleship. When you look at the battleship, it's pretty easy to see what its role is. It carries lots of large guns, and it engages other ships by firing the guns at them. The battle goes on until one of the ships is sunk. Now, this is a Type 42 destroyer of the Royal Navy. This is a modern warship. How is this an improvement over the battleship? What happened to all the large guns? What's the deal with all these electronics? And what makes the modern warship effective? These are all things I'm going to talk about today. Now, there are two important transitions that took place after World War II. One is a transition from guns, as pictured here and featured on the battleship and many other ships, to missiles, which are common on all modern warships. Another is the transition from rudimentary electronics to highly advanced radars and electronics, which are capable of not only directing missiles, but shooting down missiles and detecting targets hundreds of miles away. Because missiles are so critically important to modern naval warfare, I'm going to briefly explain how they work. Basically, missiles have three sections. A guidance section, which tells the missile where to go, a warhead, which provides the explosive energy needed to inflict damage upon the target, and a propulsion section, which extends the range of the missile by allowing it to travel through the air over great distances, sometimes more than hundreds of miles. The advantage of a missile is that, one, it's very accurate because of the guidance section. If you just shoot a shell from a gun, over time as the shell travels, it's going to deviate from the intended target. Missiles, however, have fins, and the guidance section can use the fins to steer the missile back onto its target. Missiles also have a much greater range than guns. Even the massive guns on a battleship could only hurl a shell around 24 miles. Missiles, on the other hand, can travel hundreds of miles thanks to their propulsion section. Now that we know a little bit about missiles, I want to show you how they're launched. Now, there are three different kinds of missile launchers. This footage from an Israeli missile boat shows one kind. It's the tube/box launcher. It's basically a tube or a box with a missile in it placed on the deck of the ship. When the missile needs to be fired, it comes out of the tube or box and off it goes to the target. Now, these kinds of missile launchers are relatively simple. You merely place the missile tubes on the deck of the ship and you're done. However, they can't be reloaded at sea and they take up a lot of space. The second kind of missile launcher is an arm launcher. You can see footage of it here. It's basically a rail. The missiles come out of the ship from below decks and reload the rail. The rail can also be manually moved around and trained onto targets. The advantage of this is that it can be reloaded, so you can have many missiles below the deck and you can fire them off repeatedly. The last way to launch missiles is with a vertical launch system. What you see here are a bunch of hinged doors. The hinged door opens and the missile comes out. As you can see, there are a lot of cells. The vertical launch system is highly compact. You can get a lot of missiles in a very small amount of space. That's why ships with a vertical launch system can generally carry the most missiles. For this reason, vertical launch systems are popular on expensive and complex ships which need to carry more missiles than could realistically be carried with either an arm or a box launcher. And in the background you can see tube launchers. The same ship may carry multiple different kinds of launcher. Now that we know a little bit about how missiles are stored on the ship, let's talk about the different kinds of missiles. Shown here is footage of launches of an anti-air missile. Anti-air missiles are perhaps the most important kind of missile carried on a modern warship. Anti-air missiles are capable of engaging not only enemy aircraft, but also enemy missiles themselves. This allows ships to defend themselves as well as other ships they might be escorting, like aircraft carriers or merchant vessels, against a missile attack. There are many different kinds of anti-air missiles, all with different ranges and capabilities. One important thing to know is that almost all modern warships carry some sort of an anti-air missile, with a few exceptions that I'll discuss at the end of the video. Another kind of missile is the anti-ship missile. As the name implies, the anti-ship missiles are used against ships. Because ships are very large and well-protected targets, the missile itself needs to be large. This picture of a P-500 Basalt anti-ship missile illustrates how large anti-ship missiles can be. As you can see, the missile is mounted on a very large truck bed. Anti-ship missiles are generally carried in smaller numbers than anti-air missiles. Because of this, it's acceptable to store anti-ship missiles in tube launchers as they don't take up too much space. An average large ship, such as a destroyer, will carry around 8 anti-ship missiles, whereas the same ship might carry 60 or something anti-air missiles. Obviously, storing 60 anti-air missiles in tube launchers would take up a lot of space on the deck, but it's okay to store anti-ship missiles. This footage from the earlier Israeli missile launch I used to explain the tube launcher shows the devastating damage that an anti-ship missile can do to a ship. Now we're going to talk about some of the other weapons carried on modern warships. Missiles are important, but modern warships do carry other weapons, such as small guns. Guns may not be the primary weapons of a modern warship, but they are still useful in some situations, such as bombarding targets on shore or when another warship is very close. Guns can also be used to finish off an enemy warship. As you can see, modern guns fire very quickly, and they are a lot smaller than the guns on World War II battleships. Many modern warships also carry a close-in weapon system, such as the phalanx shown here. The job of a close-in weapon system is to engage targets that slip past the outer layer of the ship's defenses, such as the long-range anti-air missiles. When a target gets too close, the close-in weapon system rapidly swivels and engages the target with either guns or missiles. A close-in weapon system is the last line of defense, similarly to a goalkeeper. Many larger naval guns also have the capability to double as a close-in weapon system. Many modern warships also carry small, lightweight torpedoes for use against submarines. These torpedoes have a relatively short range, so some warships will also carry anti-submarine missiles as well. Many warships also carry an embarked helicopter. The helicopter can fulfill a variety of roles. It can carry missiles to engage enemy ships, it can carry torpedoes and hunt for submarines, or it can insert commandos ashore to conduct raids. The helicopter can also fly out for hundreds of miles to scout for enemy vessels. Now that we've talked a bit about weapon systems, I want to switch focus to electronics. Modern warships carry a large variety of electronics, the most prominent of which are radars. Radars are used to track and detect other ships, airplanes, and missiles. Modern warships carry a large variety of radars, as you can see here. This picture shows the different radars on a Ticonderoga class cruiser of the United States Navy. As you can see, each radar serves a different purpose. The air search radar's job is to search the skies at long range for enemy airplanes and missiles. The illumination radar is used to guide the missiles to their targets. The low-level search radar is used to search the seas immediately around the ship for targets that are either flying very low or for islands or other things that may be on the water. The navigation radars are low-power radars used to search primarily for other ships. In addition to radars, many ships also carry sonars. You can see the sonar here. It's mounted inside of the bulbous bow of this Ticonderoga class cruiser. Whereas the radar searches the air for targets, the sonar searches under the water for submarines. Many modern warships also carry decoys. The job of a decoy is to distract missiles into thinking that the decoy is the target so that the missile will miss. Some vessels will also carry electronic countermeasures. Electronic countermeasures have a similar job to distract the missile away from the ship, but they do so by jamming the missile's sensors rather than by providing it with a physical decoy. Now that we've talked about the features of modern warships, let's get into the classes. The classes, from largest to smallest, are cruiser, destroyer, frigate, corvette, and then the various missile patrol boats that you'll see. And I'll explain each of these classes in a second. Cruisers, frigates, and destroyers are the largest 3 classes of modern warship, and generally these are the multi-role vessels of a modern navy. They're capable of engaging enemy aircraft and usually engaging enemy ships and submarines as well. They're large and highly capable, and they're usually the flagship of a fleet unless they're aircraft carriers. One thing that distinguishes frigates, destroyers, and cruisers from smaller vessels is that they're large enough to carry a fully functional radar. This means they can defend themselves against missile attack at long range. As a result, these large warships generally are used to defend the air and escort other ships. Anything smaller than a frigate is either a corvette or a missile boat. These small ships are not capable of carrying a full air defense radar. Because of this, they can't really be used to defend large areas or escort other ships. Instead, these small vessels are generally tasked with an offensive role. They carry their own anti-ship missiles to destroy enemy ships, and they use their small size and stealth to avoid destruction. Small vessels such as these are usually not capable of operating in the open ocean. Rather, they stay close to shore and use the terrain to hide their presence. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and there will definitely be more in the future. I might go specifically into how each ship class is used in battle. I might talk about different kinds of ships, such as aircraft carriers. I'm not entirely sure yet, but make sure, if you haven't already done so, to go check out whitefleet.net for more articles and information. Thanks, and see you next time.